It's time for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the award-winning show that covers fishing, hunting, and all sorts of outdoor recreation here in the Great Northwest. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you every week by Max Lure Company, a legacy of innovation since 1969, by Loophole Optics, America's optical authority, by Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors, by Wallowa County, nature is on display in Northeast Oregon, and by The Real News, your fishing resource. Also by Shiloh Inns and Suites, providing you with affordable excellence, and by Mardon Resort, the place for fishing, hunting, and more in Eastern Washington. And now, it's time to head outside with your host, John Cruz.
It looks like the duck migration is going on in some portions of the Northwest, but not in others. The arrival of the Northerns from Canada is a big deal for duck hunters, as huge flocks of geese and mallards and pintail wing their way into our fields and waterways. I can tell you the first wave of teal and pintails has certainly arrived at eastern Washington's Potholes Reservoir from the recent trip I took with the Mardon Duck Taxi, and Avery Pro staffers Jeffrey Duncan and Zach Laborde are reporting these birds, as well as lots and lots of cackling geese, have been showing up in recent days near Chehalis in southwest Washington. However, over on the border of northeast Washington and Idaho, the Northerns have not yet made an appearance, and the local bird numbers are down, and those that are around are really educated about the ways of hunters who want them for dinner. That's why it's called hunting instead of shopping, I guess, but stay tuned. I think those Northerns are coming down any day now in the areas that are not showing up yet, and I think it's going to get really good for everyone. Speaking of really good, we've got a really good show for you this week that covers bird hunting, fishing, and more fishing, along with some ideas about where you may want to get away outdoors this winter while staying warm and dry. That latter subject is going to come up when we talk to Virginia Painter with Washington State Parks. You probably knew that they had yurts and cabins at quite a few of their parks, but it turns out they also have some really neat vacation houses you can rent at several great destination parks, and better still, the price becomes very affordable in the off-season. Makes you want to go play at a state park during the day and sleep all warm and cozy at night. Sounds like the definition of a good time to me. Speaking of good times, walleye fishing is going strong right now, but one place you may not think of going for walleye is Montana. Everyone is so trout-oriented in this state that many tend to forget the great walleye opportunities found here. Guide Dave Gilbert with Montana Walleye is going to tell you about some of the places you can go right now to reel in a limit of these tasty fish. Speaking of fishing, coho salmon and winter steelhead are fitting their way up the Umpqua River in southwest Oregon, and guide Jody Smith is going to tell you how you can catch them. Jody's also going to share tips to help you bag a turkey this fall, just in case you're craving a wild turkey instead of a store-bought butterball for Thanksgiving or Christmas. But before we get into all of this and more, steelhead season is in full swing, and if you haven't gotten involved into steelhead fishing, you're missing out. David Sparks is going to break down the really good opportunities available in Idaho this year on Sportsman Spotlight, brought to you every week by Shiloh Inn & Suites, the hotel chain that lives up to its motto of providing affordable excellence every day.
Most anglers know Idaho is famous for its steelhead, and Idaho Fish and Game's Ed Schriever gives us a picture of this year's fishery. David Sparks, Sportsman Spotlight.
A, B, the A's run first and the B's run second up the Columbia River, but generally speaking, B's spend a higher proportion of that population of fish spends 2 years in the ocean. So a 2-year-old B steelhead is going to be 12, 14, 15 pounds. And the A-run fish predominantly come back to the Snake River and the Salmon River drainage. So the Clearwater, more big fish. And last year, the abundance was so low in the Clearwater that we actually closed the opportunity to harvest even hatchery fish in the Clearwater until we were sure we were going to have enough to meet our brood stock needs for the coming year. Again, in Idaho, we do not allow the harvest of any natural origin fish. All fish harvested in this state, whether they're salmon or steelhead in a sport fishery, have come from a hatchery and have their adipose fin clipped off. So this year, I think our guess right now, Dave, is we're going to look at something around 20,500 hatchery adipose clipped steelhead to the Clearwater Basin. And that's going to make great fishing.
And if that isn't an open invitation, I don't know what is. This is David Sparks for Sportsman Spotlight.
They were our brothers, our sisters, sons and daughters. They were our parents, family, our neighbors, and our friends. How can we express the gratitude that we all owe the thousands and thousands of American veterans who have sacrificed so much for our country's freedom? It was they who stepped forward from the time this country was created to fight for everything we know about liberty and freedom. And although we celebrate their victories and console them for their losses by creating monuments and honoring them in parades, the truth is we can never do enough for the freedom they've given us. Perhaps the most important thing we can do is reach out to those veterans closest to us and simply tell them, thank you. Thank you for all you've done for freedom. All of us at Shiloh Inns would like to take this opportunity to recognize the many men and women who have served and continue to serve our country so that we will always be free. Thank you, veterans, from everybody at Shiloh Inns.
Today's line of portable camp stoves from Camp Chef have come a long way from your father's propane stove, featuring matchless ignition, more cooking power, and in some cases a built-in grill or extra burner. Look for the complete line of Mountain Series stoves at your local sporting goods store or online at campchef.com. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. The holidays are coming up, and you might be thinking to yourself, I want some turkey. Well, guess what? We've got the guy that can help you out with that. It's Jody Smith. He's the owner of Jody Smith Guide Service. He fishes and hunts throughout Southwest Oregon. One of my favorite people in the industry. Jody, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, John. Glad to be back.
Jody, turkey season's open until December 31st in Oregon. It's also open right now in a lot of other places in the Northwest. I've got to ask, is it too late to bag a gobbler for the holidays?
Oh, no. I got lots of people getting Christmas turkeys and Thanksgiving turkeys, so no, it's none too late to do it. A lot of people don't seem to be that excited about the fall turkeys because they're not as vocal as they are in the springtime. So a lot of people hold off in the spring, but fall's a very good time to get one, and then it's really nice to have one for the holidays.
Absolutely. And I got to ask, I'm hearing something in the background, but I don't think it's a turkey. Do you have a rooster crowing right behind you?
We do have a rooster. He's actually chasing me right now. He's an honest rooster, so if any of your listeners would like to have a rooster, he is free.
There you go. You know, you got to love radio, folks. You just never know what's going to happen on the air. So, back to Jody, who's getting chased by a rooster, and we're talking turkey. Let's go ahead and talk about turkey tactics.
The rooster might be pretty good deep fat fried, though. So
I agree. You know, it's always an option. If you don't bag that gobbler again, give Jody Smith a call. We'll give you the phone number at the end, and he can hook you up with a rooster. All right, back to turkeys. Let's talk spring versus fall. How do the tactics differ at this time of year if a hunter's going to go afield and they are after basically a Thanksgiving or Christmas turkey? You know, what are some things they should do to get it?
One of the biggest things in the fall is most of the toms are off in bachelor groups. I'm not positive in all areas, but I believe it's just one turkey in the fall, so you can take a hen, and that's what a lot of people do, is try for a hen in the fall, and then they'll go ahead and get their own mounting kit and mount it, use it for a decoy in the spring.
Oh, okay.
But if you do want a tom, most of the toms have moved off kind of in bachelor groups by themselves. Right now in my area, there's a few apples still left in some of the old orchards on the homesteads, and they're really targeting the apples. The turkeys are really targeting them. So with a little bit of scouting and watching them for a day or two, they're pretty easy to set up and ambush them.
So I want to go ahead and make sure I'm on the right track here. You know, in the spring, you're basically going to a place where you know there's turkey and you're calling them in. But it sounds like in the fall, they're not as vocal. You're basically doing your homework, figuring out where they're coming to, and you're setting up to be in an ambush position. Is that about it?
That's a lot. You know, you can spook them. A lot of the guys in the South will use a dog and spook up and then call them back. I've tried that some, and it just doesn't work that well for me down here. They're kind of set in their patterns and where they're going to go, and I haven't had any luck calling them back. What
kind of loads do you use when it comes to shotgun loads for turkey?
12-gauge, 3-inch, anything from 6s down to 4s. I like extra full turkey chokes. They're extremely tough. Mm-hmm. Extremely tough. A lot of people think they can just come with their Dove loads or something like that. And it's very important that you shoot your shotgun. Most people that shoot a shotgun are just pass shooting, so they never actually sight it in.
True.
And it's amazing how many of the shotguns will shoot left, right, high, low. And with a turkey, when you're trying to hit a head at 30 to 40 yards, you need to know if you're off a little bit, especially if you have an extra full turkey choke where you have such a tight pattern. If you're off 6 inches, sometimes that's the difference between eating my rooster or having a turkey for the holidays.
I love it. One other thing we need to talk about here is, when does it end? Are we basically talking once the snow flies, it's over? Is that what we're talking about when we come to fall turkey hunting?
No, they'll be out all the time. And I've did a couple hunts already this year, and we've got birds before 9 o'clock. But it's a really nasty, rainy day with a heavy wind. Sometimes I've seen the turkey stay in the roost tree till 10 o'clock in the morning. So you get out there at daylight and sit, and a lot of people don't have enough patience. Even if you know the birds are there, they just don't fly down. So you just have to change your tactics a little bit as far as try to pick a day when it's not just pouring down rain, because we don't get that much snow down here, but we get quite a bit of rain.
All right.
So it can be a kind of a miserable day, sitting out there all day, waiting for them to come down in the rain.
Well, there you go. Some great advice to go ahead and help you bag a gobbler for the holidays. Let's go ahead and shift gears, because I know as much time as you spend in the field hunting this time of year, you're also spending a lot of time fishing, particularly the Umpqua River. What's going on there right now?
The winter steelhead are just starting to come in, and the early winter steelhead, it seems like on the Umpqua, you've got a pretty good chance of getting a nice one. We've got one already, and then quite a few coho. The coho have moved out of the salt water, and they're up here in the Elkton area. And we've been throwing spinners and pulling plugs for those, and that's actually how we got the winter steelhead. Really just concentrated on winter steelhead yet, but we get the rain that we've been having and everything. I think the steelhead will be coming in here, usually by the 1st of December is when it gets pretty darn good, but we always catch them around Thanksgiving.
Oh, there you go. Folks, we're talking to Jody Smith. He's the owner of Jody Smith Guide Service out of Elkton, Oregon, and we're talking about fishing the Umpqua River. And you've got my interest piqued a little bit here, because I've never really heard a whole lot about the coho fishery. You basically said you're back trolling plugs and you're throwing spinners. Are we talking like blue fox spinners or something else?
I like the rooster tails. Any color works real good as long as it's pink up here. The 1/2 ounce and 3/4 ounce rooster tails. Just casting. I'm using those Daiwa Tatua reels, and you can get in the middle of the river and reach the bank on both sides. So you can cover a lot of water with them, and then we're pulling mag lips, 3.5 mag lips now too. And the coho really hammer those, and occasionally a fall chinook, and the steelhead love them. So you can kind of target, you never really know. It could be a real mixed bag in a day. And the smallmouth are still biting. We've been catching some monster smallmouth.
That is amazing to me. I guess I didn't even think about that. But yeah, I guess you're throwing rooster tail spinners or you're trolling mag lips. You are going to get some smallmouth, aren't you? Let's turn our attention to the steelhead, because I know a lot of folks are really excited about that. The steelhead and the Umpqua, they get to some really good size, don't they, in the winter?
Yeah, we got a 24-pounder last year. That was our biggest one. Of course,
gosh.
It was a wild fish, and we were careful and took some nice photos and did a couple measurements on it and turned it loose. But yeah, we caught 4 last year over 18, and 24 was the biggest. But every year seems like you get a 20-pounder.
What stretch of the river do you really recommend for the winter steelhead, or is it kind of a progressive thing where you're going to start by the mouth, and as the season progresses, you work your way upstream towards Elkton?
If on the low water years, from Sawyer Rapids down is the best. It seems like a lot of fish hang up down there, and there'll be 15, 20 guys working that section through there in drift boats. But, as the season goes on, I fish mostly right in the Elkton area, either 5 miles above or 5 miles below, and right through that area because, our ranch is right on there and my boat landing's right in that area. So any of the section is pretty darn good, all the way from Roseburg all the way down to the mouth. And
something else we need to talk about again is tactics. We talked about how to catch the coho salmon. Are you doing the same thing with the winter steelhead? Are you basically back trolling plugs, or are you doing something else like free drifting eggs?
Yeah, a lot of side drifting is a big rage now, and that's what all the guides are doing. Or side drifting, or the new rage, this seems like, is bobber dogging, which is basically the same as side drifting, other than the bobber's just pulling your bait downriver with the flow. It's a little bit easier for an unexperienced fisherman.
Sure.
You can tell when you're getting a bite better than every time your slinky or your pencil lead hits the bottom and setting the hook. You can kind of tell a little bit more with the bobber, but so many guides go through this section down here, and that's all they're doing is bobber dogging and side drifting. And last year I started pulling plugs again. That's all we used to do. I mean, that was pulling no hot shots. That was the way to catch winter steelhead. And a good day was 5 or 6 pulling plugs. Well, a good day with the side drifting, 20 to 30.
Oh my God!
And last year we were pulling. I'd put in down here at my house, and I fish out of a little 18-foot sled boat a lot in the wintertime in low water, because I can go about 9 miles of river with that little sled boat. So the drift boats will put in above me. I'll side drift everything below them. Then after they come down and get caught up with me, I'll motor all the way upstream where they've been side drifting and bobber dogging all morning. And we started pulling plugs down through there. And, well, the day we got the 24-pounder, we hooked 9 in an hour and 5 minutes, pulling plugs, 2 of us.
That is about as lights out for steelhead fishing as it gets. Folks, we have got to go. Jody, I could definitely talk with you for hours about this, but I can't. So we better just give out a website and a phone number so people can find out more about booking either a hunting trip with you or a fishing trip on the Umpqua River and in southwest Oregon.
Okay, my website's jodysmithguideservice.com. Also, my Facebook page is Jody Smith Guide Service, and I put a lot of photos on there. In fact, got some new photos on it this week, and almost every day I'm updating it. It's a lot easier than my website. And the phone number is 541-643-6258.
All right, that phone number again, folks, 541-643-6258. That's 541-643-6258. The website, updated, by the way, jodysmithguideservice.com. That's jodysmithguideservice.com. And look for Jody Smith Guide Service on Facebook, too. Jody is one of the premier fishing and hunting guides here in the Northwest, and a heck of a nice guy, too. Jody, thanks so much for sharing all this great stuff on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Well, thank you. You have a good holiday.
I will. Merry Christmas and Happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
Good hunters know before you take that shot, you've got to see the whole picture. Now, the best way to do that is with a spotting scope, binoculars, or a rifle scope, but it's got to be from Leupold. Now, Leupold is a Northwest company with a reputation that stretches across the world for making superior optics. The kind of optics that allow you to see what you need before making that stock or pulling that trigger. Look for Leupold optics at your local Cabela's store, Dick's Sporting Goods, or online at leupold.com. Leupold, America's optical authority.
We're back with John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
It's time for another Max Minute.
Fish on!
Brought to you every week by Max Lure Company. With us again, Lance Mers. Lance, it's steelhead time. A lot of people are fishing for them on the Columbia River and the Snake River, and a lot of tributaries too. What is a lure that you'd recommend so they can get more fish on the boat or on the bank?
John, it's called the Max Lure Glow Getter Marabou Jig. And its marabou feathers make this lure come alive in the water.
I've actually used this quite a bit myself, had great success, and I like to use it in those rivers where it's selective regulations, where you have to pinch down that barb on that single hook and you can't use bait, and that's where a marabou jig really holds its own, because those feathers, they really come alive in the water, don't they?
They really do. And they also they come in 15 different colors, 3 different sizes, and they've got that really nice glow in the dark eye with a black head. It creates so much action, and it resembles live bait in the water. So on those tributaries where you can't use that live bait, this is the one that you want to use.
So you're basically fishing this under a slip bobber, and you're basically working current seams in slightly deeper water. Is that correct?
That is correct. And you can use it in shallow water too. Cast it out and twitch it across the river.
You know, it's funny you say that. I've actually done that very thing and caught pink salmon that way over on the Skycomish River using pink-colored glow getter jigs, and that's exactly what I've done. And I would imagine it would also work for the coho salmon.
Oh, absolutely. And you can use this for walleye too.
Have, and I've had success. I've also had success for bass too. So again, folks, jigs are one of the most versatile lures out there. Like you just heard, you can catch just about anything with a jig. And the Glow Getter from Max Lure Company is perfect for all sorts of different species, but especially right now, those steelhead. What sizes does the Glow Getter come in?
It comes in 1/8, 1/4, and 3/8 of an ounce.
There you go. All the sizes you need for success. Find out more at maxlure.com. That's maxlure.com, where you can find out also about the patented smile blade and world-famous wedding ring spinner. And that wraps up another Max Minute from Max Lure Company.
Looking for the ultimate cooking machine for your backyard or patio? Look no further than Camp Chef's new pellet grill and smoker. With user-friendly features like an auto ignition, digital readouts, and internal meat temperature sensors, it's easy to smoke the tastiest salmon, ribs, brisket, and turkey you'll ever eat. And an innovative system makes cleanup a snap. Everyone will want the food you're cooking on your Camp Chef pellet grill and smoker. The quality smoker that's second to none. Find out more at campchef.com. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
Hey, honey, come here. Check out these new Leupold binoculars. They're not only great to see birds with and animals with, but check out the stars. Hey, and since there's a full moon tonight, I thought it'd be a perfect time to break them in. Here, take a look.
Wow, I can't believe it. You can actually see the craters on the moon.
Oh, but it gets better than that. See that gray area up there right to the right? That's the Sea of Tranquility. That's where the astronauts landed on the moon and planted the American flag.
This is so cool.
Now, if you look close, you can still see that flag.
Stop telling her stories.
Don't worry, Dad. I saw it. It was right next to the lunar rover.
Leupold Binoculars, optical quality that's out of this world. Find them at a sporting goods store near you or at leupold.com.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio, and I want you to consider a trip to Washington State Parks this winter and during the off-season. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, I don't want to go camping in the rain. That's no fun. Well, guess what? You've got options where you can stay warm and dry and have an incredible experience exploring our parks. With us here to tell us more is Virginia Painter. She's with the Communications Office at Washington State Parks. Virginia, always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, John. Nice to be on the show.
Well, and again, we love having you. And Washington State Parks offers some really unique vacation rental homes, and they can be a little pricey during the summer, but during the off-season, the price comes down. Tell me more about some of these vacation rental homes, or actually, let's just start with the whole program. How does it work?
Well, we have a variety of vacation rentals. Many of them are historic vacation rentals. So not only do you get the benefit of a nice, comfortable house that accommodates several people, but you're in a historic setting with some of them. And most of them have a view right onto the park or right on the edge of water. They're in great locations. Most are on the west side, but we do have a couple that are still open during the winter time. And these are really fantastic. I've had the pleasure and the honor of staying at a few of them with my family and a couple of times with larger groups of friends, which is really fun.
Oh, I'll tell you what, Virginia, I remember one of the most enjoyable trips to a Washington State Park I ever had was going to Fort Flagler. We stayed in one of the old senior non-commissioned officers' homes. And folks,
those are wonderful.
Oh, it's great. It's this old Victorian home, folks, and it overlooks Admiralty Inlet, and you're right by the parade grounds for the fort, so you got all this military history, and you can actually literally watch the eagles fly right outside your window as they're hunting for things along the shoreline. You can walk down to the shore, go see a lighthouse. It was just a wonderful experience, and I guess we got to talk about some of the more popular places with your guests. Let's start off in the Puget Sound area. What's one of these vacation rentals that people really seem to like?
Well, you just mentioned one of them, Fort Flagler. At Fort Flagler, you're up on High Bank over the inlets, and you just have these incredible views. And then the history. You've got a similar situation down at Cape Disappointment State Park on Long Beach Peninsula with the lighthouse keepers' residences. The North Head Lighthouse is out on the edge of the cliff there, right where the Pacific and the Columbia River come together. So you see the lighthouse, but what many people don't realize is that there were two Victorian-era lighthouse keepers' residences right behind the lighthouse. Families lived there year-round, and these are the folks who kept those lighthouses stoked so that the lights were on and making, safe warnings to the ships out at sea. These are fully stocked houses. They sleep, I think it's 6 people. They're Victorian-era, but they're updated to modern uses, so they have a full kitchen, nice beds, nice comfy living rooms, TV, so you can cook all your meals there and just be cozy and enjoy the incredible views, or you can go walk around in the park, and if you get a little damp during the winter, no worry, because you just come back in and get warmed up again. That's a very popular spot. Another place just down the road is Fort Columbia. It overlooks the Columbia River. It's also a Victorian-era military fort. It has a very large house called the Scarborough House, which I believe accommodates 10 people. It's just a beautiful Victorian feel to the house, and again, all the modern conveniences. So you can bring a big group there, make your dinners, your breakfasts, and kind of hang out and still have a little bit of space from each other. You can get together in the big rooms or go off into the smaller rooms and have your private time in your bedroom and then go out for walks. And it's just really, it's kind of romantic, actually. Really fun.
I love it. And folks, again, you're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Virginia Painter with Washington State Parks about the unique vacation rental homes, many of them historic, that they offer. And during the off-season, the prices come down a little bit. Now, Virginia, the website we're going to send people to at the end, we'll just preview it now, is park.wa.gov. Again, that's parks.wa.gov, so you can find out about reserving one of these homes. But let's talk about Central or Eastern Washington. Do you have any of those vacation homes east of the Cascades?
Not the historic ones so much, but we do have a variety of cabins. We do have a historic fire lookout up at Mount Spokane that's just really sweet. You actually climb stairs and you're sleeping up in the old fire lookout. That one is open seasonally. You'd have to check on availability and whether it's open for the season. But we also have a retired ranger's house at Riverside State Park, and I thought this one would be really fun for a family trip. It's not a historic home per se, but it is kind of a large mid-century house that once did house rangers for Riverside State Park. Riverside is right on the edge of Spokane. So I was thinking what a great place this would be, maybe even for a holiday stay where you take your family over. You stay in this enormous house. It's kind of a mid-century style, and it's got room for 10 people. And it's fully functioning kitchen, and you're right in the park. So you can walk on the trails, go down to the river. There are just so many things to do, and then you're only about a 5-minute drive out of Spokane, so if you wanted to go in for some shopping or a show or something like that, you're right nearby. So I always thought that would be kind of fun for people who like kind of a city, country, park sort of a trip. And then, of course, in Spokane, you're likely to have snow or ice, and that can be really beautiful, too. They have lots of blue sky time in the winter over there.
Oh, they sure do. And again, you've got me hooked on trying that one out. It sounds great. Now, Virginia, we've been talking about these homes that actually will accommodate, groups or larger families, but for a much lower price. You also have yurts and you have rustic cabins that will basically handle couples and families up to like 4. Tell me a little bit more about these and where some of these places are.
Oh, yes. These are really nice, too. I've stayed in a few of them on family trips. There are yurts, which are a round structure based on a Mongolian form of housing from yesteryear. They're very cozy. They have a canvas outside over a wood frame. They have wood floors. They each have a heater and lights, and they sleep 5. So they've got a futon, a double bed with a single bunk on top. And you do your cooking outdoors in those, but it's covered on the entryway. And there's still a campfire ring outside, so you can have even a winter campfire is nice. And you can be indoors, outdoors. At the ocean, Grayland Beach is where these are, and also we have some at Cape Disappointment and Pacific Beach, Twin Harbors as well. At the ocean, this is especially nice because everybody loves the ocean year-round. People love to go and walk on the beach in the wintertime, but you do get a little damp and moist. And that's not a problem when you're in one of these yurts because you get to come back in, get warmed up, get cozy, and kind of enjoy getting all set up to go out again. We also have cabins at Dosey Wallops State Park.
All right.
Canasket Palmer. We have cabins up at Wallace Falls, which is a very popular hike northeast of Seattle. You can stay in those and walk the trail up to the falls. We have some beautiful cabins down at Ike Kinswa State Park on Highway 12, going across the state, down at Battleground Lake, where there's a wonderful trail around the lake. There are numerous places. We have some at Potholes State Park over by Moses Lake, up at Conconully. Those are, I think, closed for the winter, but check these out because they do open up in the spring, and they're really fantastic places to be. Wintertime, though, again, is really, you get great deals. The winter rate is about $45 at most of these places, and they do sleep 5 people, so that's pretty good. They go up to $79 during the peak and holiday seasons.
Well, Virginia's still a bargain, and folks, we have to go. But the website to find out more about renting one of these historic vacation rentals or a yurt or a cabin, especially during the off-season when it's a little bit more affordable, is parks.wa.gov. That's parks.wa.gov, parks.wa.gov, to go ahead and explore Washington State Parks and find a nice warm place to stay while you're exploring them in the off-season. Virginia, thanks as always for telling us about your great parks on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thanks, John, so much.
Snow blankets the ground and the air is crisp and clear. Welcome to the winter wonderland of Wallowa County. The sun sparkles on the eagle caps and life slows down a little. A quiet journey into the backcountry means donning your snowshoes or cross-country skis. For more adventure, bring your snowmobile and experience 150-plus miles of groomed trails and breathtaking wilderness views. When the sun sets, experience some of Northeast Oregon's finest cuisine and stay at one of our quality overnight accommodations. Wake up to the world in Wallowa County. Your morning begins at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
Wetlands are some of the most important ecosystems on Earth, but our wetlands are quickly disappearing. Find out how you can help. Join Ducks Unlimited today.
I'm gonna take you fishing, honey. You're gonna love it. Gonna get up before the sun.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. It's time again for news and reports from the field. Brought to you every week by Mardon Resort, located at Eastern Washington's Potholes Reservoir. We told you about it last week. We'll tell you again. The Northerns are coming in. Great time to go duck hunting out at Potholes Reservoir and at places around there like Winchester and Frenchman's Wasteway. This is ground zero for wonderful duck hunting, and Potholes Reservoir has been on fire for walleye fishing as well. They've got walleye up to 15 pounds this fall. The fishing is fantastic. The hunting's fantastic. You need to get out there. Find out more at mardonresort.com. That's mardonresort.com, where the fish bite, but we don't. We've been talking walleye, and let's explore that subject further. Not in Washington State, though, but in Montana. Next up, we're heading to west central Montana. We're talking to Dale Gilbert. He is a Max Lure Pro Guide, a pro walleye fishing tournament angler, and owner of Montana Walleye, a service that takes you fishing for walleye in the Treasure State. Dale, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sean. Glad to be here.
Dale, folks are always talking about trout when it comes to Montana, but there's some great walleye fishing to be had there as well. What are a few places where you would send people to in November to go ahead and catch some big walleye?
Well, frankly, John, you know, Montana's got some of the best walleye fish in the country as far as I'm concerned, and this time of year is my favorite time to fish. I'll fish Canyon Ferry Reservoir on the Missouri River system, all the way down to Fort Peck. I fish the Missouri River system itself down below Great Falls and into the Fred Robinson Bridge area, and then I also fish several of the reservoirs like Lake Francis by Valier, Tiber Reservoir up at Chester, which is where our current state record is from. Nelson Reservoir by Malta, the fishing is really good, but it's just generally pretty good fishing pretty much most areas in this time of year.
Is this a situation where basically the fish have got the feed bag on, or what's going on? Why is the fishing so good in November?
A number of things. That's certainly one of the main things in the fall. I think the fish do get to the point of putting the feed bag on and getting ready for winter, and they're kind of feeding up because they're going to slow down here once the ice is up a little bit, you know. But it's generally it's a great time of the year. We get some of the most stable weather generally that we have for the full year, so fishing is generally pretty good. It's actually my favorite time of year to fish.
We talked to folks who fish over in Washington State and on the Columbia River quite a bit about walleye fishing. We don't talk enough about fishing in Montana. When it comes to tactics, as this water is cooling in November, what are you doing to get fish in the boat?
Well, you know, the first thing is, and this is always the biggest thing with walleye fishing, is basically figuring out where the fish are to begin with.
Sure.
So a lot of times I'll try to cover a lot of water, and I may be throwing crankbaits. I may be pulling some sort of a bouncer with like a Max Mild Blade lure. And then once I find fish, I like to sit on them with a jig if I can, with some sort of a jig or maybe a jig and spoon, something that, because fish will generally tend to concentrate in most areas this time of the year in some of the sharp deep water breaks. Some areas like Lake Francis, you sometimes do exceptionally well throwing crankbaits over the weeds, and I like to do whatever it takes to catch fish.
Well, I think most of us feel the same way. I am surprised to hear that crankbaits are still working this late in the year, because I know over in eastern Washington, they're transitioning out of that and pretty much going towards the bottom bouncers and, like you said, Max Lure spinner blades. Or once they find them, like you said, in eastern Washington, they do a lot of blade baiting, but you're doing jigging. What kind of jigs are you using?
I use a variety of jigs. I use a Pintech knuckleball jigs. I also use the jigging spoons for some, because the blade baits and that, with the deep water, it's a pretty effective way of catching fish. I use a lot of just a heavy jig with a gulp minnows, because in several areas we can't use live minnows, and it seems to work really, really well if you can get the fish pinned down and know where they're at, so you're fishing.
I know that Max makes a sonic bait fish. You know, when it comes to these jigging spoons, are you using any scent on them or not?
Now, you know, some people do. I don't generally, John. You know, usually the fish are active enough that if you get something down there in front of them and it's got an erratic action like that bait does, it's just a trigger for those fish, and they'll just hammer it. So sometimes people will tip those jigs with a little, even a head of a minnow, or you can do those kind of things. I generally don't. I generally just fish them plain.
Okay, so walleye fishing, funny thing about that, I think it's kind of intimidating for some people. Personally, I love walleye fishing. I don't think it's that tough of a thing to do, but a lot of people do, and I understand for people that are new to it or just want to go ahead and up their game, so to speak, you actually offer some walleye boot camps. Tell our listeners about these.
Exactly, John, and it's actually one of the things that I really kind of promote is my business is the on the water seminars, and we actually do a couple of different boot camps a year that I partner up with Jim Malinowski from Bozeman, who used to also be a tournament pro, who's got his guide license, and we work a couple of weekends over at Hell Creek on Fort Peck, and the whole concept is just to teach people how to learn how to find and then catch fish, and going through the different presentations, whether it's jigging, rigging, bottom bouncing with the smile blades, to going to the crankbaits, and how and when to make the changes, because at any point in time, something's probably going to be better than something else. That's one thing I've learned about tournament fishing for 35 years. There's always fish biting somewhere, somehow. So you get it figured out, and it's really been a great experience. Fort Peck is a tremendous fishery. You have the smallmouth, northern, and walleye. It's just a great time. We have a small group of people. We spend 2 days with time on and off the water, going through talking about what we're doing and why we're doing it, and then showing people what it is we're looking for and actually physically doing it. So it's the best way to learn, period.
And when are you going to be offering these in 2015?
Right now, we've got 2 of them set up the first 2 weekends in June. The one is the June 6th and 7th, and the other one is June 13th and 14th. That's a Saturday and a Sunday. And it's generally limited to about 6 people per session, because one day 3 people will spend with me in the boat, and the next day they'll go with Jim in the boat. And that way they get to see kind of the best of both worlds, because Jim runs the Class 1 Pro V, and I've got a 2075 Pro V with the Mercury motors. I run the Rance and Motor Guide trolling motors, and Jim's got the Hummingbird and Minn Kota, and so they get to see how all that stuff works as well, which is also part of the learning experience.
Absolutely love it. Dale, we have got to go, but folks, if you want to find out about attending the Walleye Boot Camp that's going to be taking place in June at Fort Peck Reservoir, or going fishing right now and catching some fall walleye with Dale, just go to montanawalleye.com. Really easy website to remember, montanawalleye.com. You can also give Dale a call at 406-788-3824. That's 406-788-3824, or just go to montanawalleye.com. Dale, thanks for giving us the rundown on walleye fishing in Montana on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thanks for the opportunity, John. Appreciate it.
In other field reports, let's head to Idaho, where a lot of anglers are targeting steelhead, and they're having some success. That's the word from Idaho Fish and Game, which reports during the week ending November 2nd, they checked nearly 500 anglers on the Salmon River between the Middle Fork and the North Fork, who caught 185 steelhead. The salmon from the North Fork to the Lemhi also received a good amount of pressure. 244 anglers were checked with 135 fish there. Heading downstream from the mouth of the Little Salmon to Vinegar Creek, 224 fishermen and women caught 100 metalheads, and on the Snake River downstream from the salmon, creel checkers found the best batting average with 167 anglers catching 148 fish. As good as the salmon and snake are fishing, the catching on the Clearwater is a little slower right now. 282 individuals were checked on the water from the mouth to Orofino, but they only caught 95 fish. And finally, the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife has got some suggestions on where to go fish this month in southeast Oregon. This includes the Klamath River below Keno Dam, which can provide excellent fishing for large red band trout. If you can get to Miller Lake, you can be in for some really good big brown trout fishing, though access may be blocked by snow sooner than later. And finally, Crumbo Reservoir is now open for fishing year-round. This is a new rule, and this lake in the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge south of Burns may well be worth a November visit, because anglers have been catching rainbow trout up to 19 inches long. Stick around. We're going to be right back and tell you about some upcoming events taking place in the Northwest you're not going to want to miss.
Rise above us, got a bamboo pole and a leaky boat. It ain't much, but if you bail, it'll float. I'm gonna take you fishing, honey. You're gonna love it.
I'm Bob Loomis, and I fish for walleye. Sometimes when I'm out on the water, I feel like a destroyer captain hunting for targets with my electronics. I'm not hunting submarines, though. I'm hunting fish, and when I find that big one on the fish finder, I want to make sure she's going to bite. That's where the Smile Blade Slow Death Rig from Max Lure comes in. The Smile Blade spins and flashes at ultra slow speeds, and the one-of-a-kind red hook keeps that bait moving in a way the fish can't resist. It's the Smile Blade Slow Death Rig. You're the destroyer. This is your depth charge. Only from Max Lure.
It's the holiday season, and what better way to celebrate than with a year-long subscription to The Real News, dedicated to the accurate coverage of fishing issues throughout the Northwest for over 25 years. The Real News is the perfect gift for the reading angler. Just log on to therealnews.com and go to the subscription page. As a special bonus, we'll throw in a vinyl Real News sticker if you mention Northwestern Outdoors Radio. Order now and make someone happy far beyond the holidays.
Last year, you created 250,000 jobs. The year before, you added $150 billion to the U.S. economy. In fact, each year for the last 75, you stood up, dug deep, and moved forward. All so you could turn to the little one beside you and say with certainty, one day, all of this will be yours. Hunters, you are the best kept secret in conservation.
Psst, yeah, you, the guide, outfitter, or outdoors business owner who's listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. Have you ever thought of becoming a sponsor of our show? We've got local sponsor opportunities at all 50 of the stations that carry Northwestern Outdoors every week, and we've got some network opportunities too. If the outdoors is your business, we can help you with your advertising needs. Contact me, John Cruz, through our website at northwesternoutdoors.com for more information. That's northwesternoutdoors.com, helping you get the word out about your outdoors company.
From the Columbia River to Puget Sound, the Coastal Conservation Association in the Pacific Northwest works to conserve the fish we love and does so while protecting our heritage of sport fishing. To find out more, go to ccapnw.org. Again, that's ccapnw.org.
We're back with one last cast from John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
It's time for upcoming events, and we've got another reminder for you about that benefit dinner taking place at the barn in Winthrop, Washington on November 22nd to benefit the big mule deer herd of that area that lost a good portion of its winter range when the Carlton Complex fire burned through there this summer. The dinner is being put on by the Mule Deer Foundation, and in addition to good food, there will be games and items you can bid on in silent and live auctions, to include a pair of BX2 Cascades binoculars valued at over $300 that our sponsor Leupold has donated to the cause. You can find out more about attending by contacting Dan McKinley with the Mule Deer Foundation. His email is simple, dan@muledeer.org. That's dan@muledeer.org. Speaking of reminders, the annual Snake Clearwater Steelhead Derby is also coming up soon in the waters near Lewiston, Idaho. It's taking place from the 22nd through the 29th, and as we mentioned a couple of weeks ago on this show, there are over $10,000 in cash and prizes being given away, to include a $2,000 check that will be given to the angler who catches the biggest fish during the Derby. Find out more about this one at steelheadderby.com. If you have a kid and live near Missoula, you may want to drop by the Montana Natural History Center on Hickory Street next Saturday the 22nd at 2 p.m. That's when they're going to be putting on a program just for kids to teach them all about bears. I suspect you parents or grandparents attending may learn something too. The cost to attend is only $3. And in Oregon, you are invited to participate in a birding survey at Fort Stevens State Park this Monday, the 17th, from 9 to 11 a.m. Meet at Battery Russell, bring a pair of binoculars if you have them, and be prepared to log what you see. All experience levels are welcome, and there's no cost to participate. If you get a chance, go to Facebook. Check us out there. We're at Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're always adding things there in terms of not just previews of the show, but all sorts of stuff that doesn't necessarily make the show that's hunting, fishing, and outdoors related here in the Northwest. That's Northwestern Outdoors Radio on Facebook. And don't forget to check out our website too, northwesternoutdoors.com. You'll find links to find out more about our guests. You'll find previews of the upcoming show, and you can also listen to last week's show online at northwesternoutdoors.com. Another website to check out is RenoViolaOutdoors.com. That's where you're going to find WRVO Radio. the internet station that offers outdoors radio programming 7 days a week. 30 different shows can be heard here, to include ours on Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. That's WRVO Radio, found online at renoviolaoutdoors.com. That's all for this week. Thanksgiving is just around the corner, and a whole lot of fishing, hunting, and other fun outside is on tap between now and Turkey Day. So until next time, take care, God bless, and make it a point to spend some time out.